Ladies and gentlemen, Slanche, happy St. Patty's Day from the Birds vs. Boys to you if you are watching on YouTube. Nope, I did not convert to an Eagles fan. We are just all in green because it is a beautiful, almost spring day here in the Northeast, and it's St. Patty's Day. A couple years ago, I would be probably drunk by now when we're recording this at 2. I actually ate, and I told my wife that I once in college drank all night long. The bar opened at 4. So I'd been drinking from about 10 p.m. and then I had an exam at 9 a.m. and I went right from the bar to exam. She goes, "You took a test drunk?" I said, "Don't you dare on God's holiday judge me." So yeah, so we're here.
We listen and we don't judge. Happy
Exactly.
St. Patrick's Day. Greatest holiday, greatest Disney movie of all time. Luck of the Irish was awesome. And also in college, I feel like that was par for the course. It was just like you had obstacles. That obstacle was always just the actual schoolwork you were supposed to do. So, and a beautiful day, starting to be spring. It's a little cold today, but at least it's like 60s. I appreciate the Eagles just getting us through the miserable months of winter where it was bitter cold. So I think I timed this up perfectly where it was like Eagles win Super Bowl. I go to Florida. I come home. Now it's St. Patrick's Day and warm outside. Pretty solid.
Pretty smart. And before I have one last St. Patrick's Day, I have a trivia question for you, Aiden. And it revolves around you and I, kind of.
What's that?
It revolves around you and I and St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, this will be interesting. I was going to say, if it's actual St. Patrick's Day trivia, if I get this wrong, I feel like I'm failing my entire family, because if anyone who follows on YouTube, thank you, but I think you could generate a guess as to where my descendants are from.
You didn't take part in the ginger run that I saw on Barstool this week?
I saw that, and I want to be involved. We went out St. Patrick's Day. It was a lot of fun. We did Conshohocken this year. So if you're local to the area, they actually had a great St. Patrick's Day parade. That was a lot of fun. I did not do the ginger run, but it is on my list of things to do on my bucket list now.
So my trivia question to you, if you think way back when, a couple of years ago, when we were on Philly Feud with Mike Missinelli, what was my fun fact that Mike Missinelli said about me when he introduced me?
Was it about bacon?
Nope.
Oh. I remember everybody's fact. I literally remember the trivia question that you had. You literally had a hockey trivia question.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
How do I remember that?
Oh, we had another one about streets.
About what?
About streets in Philadelphia. Remember, in like the Boulevard wasn't on there. We got really angry.
Oh yeah, it was like the most popular streets. It was like Broad Street. What was your fun fact? Now I don't remember.
He thinks St. Patrick's Day is better than Christmas.
Oh, I do remember that. He agreed, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I think Mr. Melsinelli agreed with you. Yeah, I do remember that now.
That was such a fun time.
That was a great time.
We'll put the link to our old episode in the comments. Everybody can watch us on the Philly Feud with Mike Missinelli from 7 years ago.
That was such a great time because it just for anybody who was not a part of this back then, we were on literally NBC Sports. The best part of that was we had never been on TV before, so we didn't know what to expect. So we were worried we were going to screw it up.
Yep.
And then they screwed it up before I even had a chance to talk. So I was like, all right, this is going great.
We're ready to roll.
They broke the teleprompter stopped working in the intro. So I was like, I didn't even get a chance to answer yet, and I'm already off. There's no pressure, so it was perfect. And we calmed the nerves immediately.
We should have taken down Crossing Broad. We should have won that.
Oh, we should have.
It was close. It was close.
My question, I was handling it. I got like 3 or 5.
You did. All right, let's get into this. There is a lot happening. A lot happening in the NFL free agency world. We are getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. The offseason is cooking. People being traded away from the Eagles. Picks being brought up. Eagles going to have 11 picks in the first 100 picks next year. So, some people are like, how are you going to let Mekhi Becton go and this and that? They're just reloading. That's all they're doing. So why don't we start with the Eagles and kind of their philosophy, since I don't know, they're the Super Bowl champs.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for shouting it out that we are the Super Bowl champs. I think we need to be reminded constantly. And when we lose players, I would like to remind everyone. I will say this. I think we've done it. Philadelphia, hats off to us for the first time in what I feel like is forever, we are all collectively on the same page where everyone understands the plan and the strategy and not really anyone is against it. Like I
No.
see some people pop up, but I would say like 95% of the people are on board with, yeah, it stings that these players are leaving, but it's because of the economic structure of the NFL, and we
Yep.
can't just pay out all these different guys, and we still have a great roster, and we need to build through the draft. Like everyone is on, and it's all like, yeah, we really liked rooting for these guys. There is nothing against them for going to another team and getting a payday after they helped us win a Super Bowl, and we wish them best of luck in their new ventures, and I hope they do really well. Just couldn't pay him. And like everybody's on board with that. So I'm actually kind of blown away that for once ever, Philadelphia, there is no war. It is just peace.
Because if you think down the line too, right, you have to always be forward thinking, especially with NFL teams. How would you have the ability to pay Milton Williams $26 a year when I guarantee Jalen Carter is going to want plus 30 in a couple of years, right? You can't have $59 million tied up in 2 defensive tackles.
I did a video last week and I kind of said along those lines is if Milton Williams is worth $26 million right now, you'd probably venture to guess that Jalen Carter is worth 34, 35. And that's right now. And and when they do the extension next offseason, it might even be higher than that. And to go even deeper than that, and we can go into the full philosophy, you said that like you can't give $59 million to 2 defensive tackles. It's not sustainable against the cap. Even more so, having 5 offensive linemen that would generate double-digit 8-figure salaries every year, also not sustainable, which is why we were not able to bring back Mekhi Becton, and that one definitely stung. I definitely want to touch on him, but just overall philosophy, I think the rest of the league will start to trend this way, where the Eagles are building through the draft and they're stockpiling picks. And the reason that they're doing it, one, if you can draft a guy, extend him after his rookie deal and not have to hit free agency, it is cost saving. And then 2, when you stockpile picks, you move them as like trade chips. And on draft night, if there is a certain guy that you genuinely believe is going to be your next star, you can take one of those extra picks that you got through a comp pick because somebody left and be aggressive to go get them. They moved up for Devontae Smith. They moved up for Jalen Carter. They moved up for Cooper DeJean. They moved up for Kaylee Ringo. If you have 21 picks, it's not feasible that they're going to take 21 selections in this year's draft and next year's draft. But what they're are going to
make the
do,
team.
Exactly. There's the numbers wise alone, 21 out of 53. A lot of guys aren't making it. But you can use those to get aggressive on the draft board, move up and down as need be. I wouldn't even be shocked if they're sitting there at 32 and the Malachi Starks is off the board and the edge rushers are off the board and they're like, yeah, we'll go back to 35 and pick up another pick. So you see that philosophy. And as these numbers for contract extensions roll in, you don't see a way for the rest of the league. It's not just the Eagles. Like I don't see how any team could build their way through spending. They have to build through the draft.
And a couple points there. One, what you just said, if the guy's not there at 32 that you want, you trade out into the second round. The thing about it is that a lot of people don't understand too. They think, all right, there's 32 picks in a first round, except for that one year, wasn't there only 31 because the Dolphins didn't get a first round pick?
Dolphins, yeah.
So just because there's 32 picks, that doesn't mean there's 32 first round NFL talent players. On average, there are 13 to 15 max true first round greats on NFL. Like Shedeur Sanders, if you went to third, he's not a first round pick, but he's going to get picked in the first round because he's a quarterback.
Yeah.
But if you're in that back half, it's so advantageous for you to, okay, we'll see you tomorrow night. And I'll take another pick. Like,
especially when there's certain, and not only that, but there's certain guys that are only so many have a first round grade. There's usually certain positions that are deeper or lighter. So if you and the Eagles do need this, like they need a tight end, it's a super deep draft where you could be like, okay, see you night 2. Like you're not gonna, if Tyler Warren is not going to be there at 32, if he doesn't even come close, which I doubt he will, you're going to say to yourself, okay, well, at pick 60, I can still get a feasible tight end, which is how they got Dallas Goedert. And they just repeat the process.
LSU is going to be a star.
Yep. I think he is high on the board for the Eagles.
And people are like questioning somewhat of him. And I'm like, if you watch the tape, right, the Heisman Trophy winner from last year, who is now arguably one of the best young quarterbacks in the league in Washington, and then Nussmeier, the kid that was there this year, at an end of the game or in big situations, who did both of those guys go to? Him. And they have stud wide receivers.
I put more and more emphasis on player production. Like, yes. I think you can game the system a little bit with your combine results. I think Senior Bowl at this point matters more. Like, because Senior Bowl, you're playing against other top prospects, and then just like game production. If you run a 4.3, that is awesome. Good for you. And the Eagles care about that RAS athletic score thing quite a bit. But I think there's more to it than that at this point.
You can't draft just on combine, right? The combine's a nice to have. Right, it's like Will Johnson right now, right? The cornerback from, and we're going to get into a lot more draft talk coming up. We're going to be doing mock drafts, but like Will Johnson is somebody that the Dallas Cowboys are looking at because corners depleted for them, right? And 2023, he had really good tape, right? This past year, not such good tape. And he's a prototypical, you can't make a cornerback in a lab better looking than him. Tall, he's like, that's just who he is. He's lanky. He's got the size. But the question mark there is his speed, right? And he didn't run at the combine. And now people are like, I don't know if he's going to run at all. I don't know if I can take a cornerback who has 1 year good tape, and I think he might run in the 4.5, 4.6s. Like but that would help him. But also, if he just ran like just a 4.4, I'm not just going to take him off just that. I need to marry it with the tape. It has to be coupled together.
I was going to say, in that situation, if he looks slow on tape and then he doesn't run, then the combination's pretty bad. But you're right. I feel like I weigh the tape a lot more. And if you're saying, well, he had a weak 2024, then I'd be concerned. But hey, this is another reason with the stockpiling of the picks. So I subscribe to this theory in any sport. Is sometimes drafts can be a crapshoot where that kid who was great in 2023 and weaker in 2024, you are almost not really, but you are kind of flipping a coin to see who you could be. Well, the more picks you have, the more throws at the dartboard you have. And the more likely you are to land a star, the more screw-ups you can get away with if you draft well. So that's another reason to have this many picks is what the Eagles do, is the fact that you can try and try and try again to spin the wheel and hope it lands on green.
I completely agree that's the strategy to take. Or, I mean, you could be a team that also coins yourself off draft and develop, but you could just, give a 4th round pick for Trey Lance, who never started for you, or, a 4th round pick for Mingo, who was about to be cut from Carolina, and then bring him in, and then also, draft a wide receiver who had 6 yards for the Eagles this past year.
And then finally hit on the draft and just let those players walk like Rico Dowdle. Why? Why? They couldn't afford Rico Dowdle.
I think so. We'll get into this now. We can start with the Cowboys. I think Jordan Lewis, their nickel corner, I think they fully expected they were going to bring him back, right? I don't think nickel corner was something that they thought they were going to have to invest in, whether it be in free agency or the draft, because they were going to be able to re-sign him. They miscalculated Jordan Lewis's market, right? I think they thought they could have got him for $5-6 million, and then here comes Jacksonville giving him $10 million a year. And I don't think the Cowboys were ever going to walk in that water. We've said they haven't. Greg Hardy was the last person they gave at least $8 million to an outside free agent. And then Rico Dowdle, I think they mismanaged his too. I think they thought he was going to get $5-6 million a year. So Javonte Williams comes in, signs day one because nobody else was calling. And then basically Rico Dowdle signed for basically the same deal, maybe if not a little bit less, to go to Carolina. But hey, they just swapped running backs, Aiden with Carolina, and brought in Miles Sanders, who
Fun.
had 12 years. Or I think he had like 200 yards last year.
He was injured and then got replaced by Chuba Hubbard. So
Yep.
I guess he's the backup to Javonte Williams, who was also the backup in Denver. So I don't understand the plan at all.
They will take a running back within the first 3 rounds, and I think Miles Sanders might be last year's Royce Freeman, where he doesn't make the team.
That's how I feel about AJ Dillon.
Yeah, and AJ Dillon was a guy that everybody thought was going to sign with the Cowboys last year in free agency.
It's funny the musical chairs of free agency sometimes.
Yep,
and just how things play. But yeah, I think for the Cowboys, I don't understand it because it's not like you're signing these blockbuster deals that I'm trying to avoid. I think a good rule of thumb is you ask yourself, is the player's best production ahead of them?
Mm-hmm.
If not, do I want to give them a lofty contract, i.e. Josh Sweat, who's 29? Do I think his best football is ahead of him? No, I think we just saw it. Like, I think that playoff run was the best it'll be. I don't want to give him $74 million. That being said, I think there's a middle ground that the Cowboys could have fallen into that they did not.
Yep. I think also maybe with Rico, it was something where, I mean, he's been with the organization for about 6 years now, constantly injured every year. He's a violent runner. So maybe they're projecting out too, like, okay, he just had sort of same thing that you just said. He just had 1,200 yards in a season. He stayed healthy for an entire season for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. Like, is that going to continue? And maybe they and couple that with they thought he was going to get $6 million a year on the open market, and they just miscalculated.
That makes sense, but then if we take that line of logic further, not you, the Cowboys.
Yep.
Like, I think this is all them. I think you get it. They'd be better off if you just ran the show for them. But they don't want to re-sign a violent runner because he's more susceptible to injuries. Fair. So you don't use that money on him. You could use that money on the offensive line, which they have not. Instead, they will probably then use their first-round pick on a violent runner in Ashton Genty.
I don't think he's
without having ever addressed the offensive line in front of him. So he'll just be violently running into defensive tackles 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
He's not going to be there at 12.
You don't think so?
Nope. I think he's either going to be a Raider or a Bear.
I don't think. Maybe a Bear, but I wouldn't even be shocked if they took another offensive lineman. I don't hate that plan. If you're the Bears, just be like, we're just going to try everything. Just keep signing and drafting them. Something's got to work.
I think the Raiders will either take Genty if he's there or Sanders. And I think Sanders just because Shador we're talking about, not Shiloh.
Thanks.
And I would not be surprised if the Cowboys took Shiloh Sanders in the 7th round. But Shador has been comped to Geno Smith, right? They've been like pro, but Geno has much better mechanics than Shador does. He's so fluid. So maybe that's somebody that they want him to learn from, and it would be a perfect coupling. If not, I mean, that was the worst running backfield in the league last year in the Raiders. So they could immediate upgrade with, some say, the best overall prospect in the draft in Ashton Genty. But I think even if he's there at 12, Aiden, I don't know if they take him. Honestly,
I really think they could.
I don't think they should go. I think they would take a receiver. I think if like Tedrow McMillan's there, they would take Ted McMillan over him.
He keeps falling, which is
except he just ran a 4.48 at his pro day. So I think now he's going to jump back up.
I don't see that's nothing with him has really changed. I don't know how he fell out of favor.
I don't understand either, but it's fine. I don't think anybody in the top 11 should take him. I'm all over if Tet is there, you take him. You pair him with CeeDee Lamb. Thank you very much.
I would agree with that.
And you said how deep this draft is in different positions. Defensive tackle, extremely.
Yep.
Running back, I think in 3 years we're going to come back and be like, holy shit, that 2025 running back class. Like, there's studs everywhere. Like there's
Yeah,
probably 13 guys that are going to be contributors to teams moving forward.
I agree. Tight end and running
Hampton,
back.
Johnson from Iowa. And then if you want like speedsters like Harvey from USF, like there are so much. The kid from Rutgers in the later rounds, like there's a lot of the kid from Syracuse in the later rounds. Like there are so many talented running backs that can help so many teams. And I would not be surprised if Dallas even double dips at running back.
They could. I think the Eagles might. It would be later in the draft. It would be like the 5th round, but they might go the Kenny Gainwell route again that they did with Will Shipley and take one late just because it's such a deep draft. And like you mentioned, you could get a perfect, like the UCF guy.
Yep.
Perfect. That's a perfect mid-round guy that you could add to your team and be like, he's a good change of pace. And you
also
utilize him from day one.
Somebody, you take a good running back here, and some people are like, why are you wasting a draft pick? You have Saquon. Well, do you want to extend Saquon too? His health. So you take a couple carries off him, a couple carries here and there will go a long way.
I agree. And I actually like Will Shipley a lot. So we'll see how they utilize him in that Gainwell role. I think Gainwell, we knew he was going to leave because you're not going to re-sign a backup running back. But I thought he played that backup role perfectly.
Yep.
He could make a man miss in space. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. You knew you could at least rely on him in the short spouts that Saquon needed to be out of the game. So he was perfect for that role. So I think they'll try to fill that with Shipley. And if not, I think they might double down in the draft. I don't read much into the A.J. Dillon one. But yeah, like you said, it's a deep draft and it's worth something.
Yep. I mean, other than that, some of the moves the Cowboys, they've been making moves, right? They've been doing things. And like, that's the benchmark now. Are you doing anything? Like
Eagles do.
Literally the meme of like poking them, like do something. Like at least they've done something this year. Some of the things I'm like, that Peyton dude out of New Orleans who was they're just bringing in. They're obsessed with former first round picks, right? Kyrie Elam, former first round pick, hasn't. I mean, literally Bills fans are like, wait, we got something for him. Like
I love that the internet has caught on to the trend that if the reporter announces the trade and they're like, and this kid has now been traded, he was a former first round pick. You're like, oh, I get it. So he stinks.
Well, Aiden, the Jones boys haven't caught on to that yet because that's
apparently not. Well, hey, we traded our starting safety for Kenyon Green, former first round pick. Just ignore the fact that he was too bad to even play on the Texans offensive line, which was a joke.
I did that was how are we feeling about that?
Disappointed. I understand that the money, there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that eliminates the salary cap. That one I think hurts the most because you didn't expect it. You mentally prepared yourself for losing Milton Williams and Josh Sweat and even Slay, who was under contract for another year, but you didn't expect to lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And now another aspect of this is, again, I totally understand that they get another pick. They're trying to save money. They have massive extensions that they're going to have to do to keep a lot of these young guys on this team and continue to grow. But for the time being, the question that they need to answer themselves is, who is now the turnover worthy guy?
Yes.
Because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was here for just 2 years and had 12 interceptions.
Yep.
And you couple that with Darius Slay and the turnovers that he has forced. This is a team that did really, really well forcing turnovers. And you lose 2 guys that have done it. So in the short term, that is my biggest worry. I think I'll be talking about that all summer.
And correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm not a Eagle guy, but he seemed to be the heartbeat of the defense too, like emotional and leadership wise.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's worry right now. It admittedly is different. But I think it's like history. You think history is doomed to repeat itself, and you look at 2023, and they looked lifeless on defense after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left. And I think that 49ers game sticks out to us because of the shock values. Like, we're not really used to teams coming into Lincoln Financial Field and trying to bully us, and they succeeded, which really doesn't happen, and it rubbed people the wrong way. And the fan base from then on questioned them for the rest of the year.
Yep.
I do think it's a little bit different now for a variety of reasons. One, Jalen Carter is a menace to society.
Yep.
I think there's guys that even if they don't talk like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I don't think they get bitched on a football field. Like they tell stories of Quinion coming out of training camp, like he was going after AJ Brown from day one. Like he'd give up. Slay was talking about how he'd give up like a 5-yard reception and he'd be like pissed off and be like, "No, run it again, run it again." So like they have demons on the defense
Yep.
this time,
Yep.
and also the worst problem in 2023 was, and in 2018, they got tied to aging veterans.
Yes.
Where this time they're like, we're gonna ride or die with the young guys, which I'm okay with.
Yep.
Including Sidney Brown taking over for safety. I don't have to worry about him like not having a spine on a football field. I think that would be his top quality. Is he is another menace to society who loves football and is just he is on a definition of a dog. DAWG.
I mean, he literally started a brawl basically in the tunnel against the Cowboys in the meaningless game at the end of the season
on special teams.
Yep. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything there. Cowboys too. I mean, some of the ones that I have liked the move, like I like Solomon Thomas. I mean, for what they got him for, you pair him with Osa, you can put both of those guys on the line together. And speaking of Osa, I mean, I have to give the Joneses kudos on this. Now, Osa was a guy who seemed like he wanted to stay in Dallas. He's apparently extremely tied to the community. He already had like 9 charity events at the Star lined up for this next upcoming year. So he was somebody that wanted to stay there. But I mean, you saw what Milton Williams got. Osa was up there right at the top of the DTs that were going to be coming in free agency. He was going to get 25, 26. One team at the combine said that they'd be willing to give him 27 a year. Cowboys got him for 20 a year. I mean, I have to give them credit on that. It was a great deal. And then the linebacker they got from the Bears, you know, all I got to say, white Wisconsin linebacker. That's all I'm going to say.
Tackles everything.
Yep. Moving forward, attacking the quarterback, run stopping, good. Side to side, moving backwards, not good.
Classic.
But obviously Eberflus had him in Chicago. I've watched some of his tape. He impresses me. He will fight for a spot on that linebacker core. But again, Cowboys have so many holes, right? Cornerback is decimated. You have Deron Bland, who's up for a contract soon, and now with the Stingley deal, his price just went up. Trayvon Diggs, don't know when he's coming back. Former first-round pick now, Kyer Elam, and you don't have a nickel, so corner is going to be offensive line, right? You still need help at guard. We don't know, really question marks at both tackles. Running back, linebacker, we don't know when Overshown's going to come back. You have Leofau from last year. Kendricks is gone. Now you have also former, is he a second-round pick out of Oklahoma? He was a second-round pick, right? The linebacker, Kenneth Murray, who they just traded for, who was phenomenal in college. I don't know if Jerry just like watched the college tape and skipped the NFL tape because it hasn't been pretty good, not good.
He's been a big name.
But, you know, and I tweeted it too. I think Jerry also was like, damn, that Eagles running back sure does look pretty damn good this year, huh? And then he saw like a headline, or he was just scroll. Maybe they just scroll through like the simulators too, or like who's available. And he's like, former Eagles running back Miles Sanders. They let him go. That boy's good. Sign him. And he thought Miles Sanders was Saquon Barkley.
I will say, I am guilty of this as well. If somebody balls out against my team, I'm like, yeah, he's legit. And I feel like there's probably somewhere in the Jones family where they saw Miles Sanders running for the Eagles and like, yeah, this kid's sick. Let's bring him in. Not realizing that it's like a year removed, and it was a year with the Panthers that didn't go well. But I feel like I'm very guilty of that as well. I'll see it. I feel like it happens in the NBA way more. They'll score 24 against the Sixers. I'm like, wow, he must be an all-star. It's like, well, no, the Sixers might just not be able to defend.
That'd be good. Do you want to talk about the DeMarcus Lawrence thing? Because I'm sure you do.
Yes, I actually wanted to bring that up. Do you want to talk about the DeMarcus?
Yeah, oh yeah, I don't. I mean, I see both sides of it here. So if you've been living under a rock, DeMarcus Lawrence, the longest tenured Dallas Cowboy on defense, is no longer with the Cowboys. He signed a $15 million a year deal. I think it was 3-year deal, $45 million with the Seahawks. Who's being introduced in Seattle, and one of the I think the guy's literal Twitter handler is Seahawks blogger. I think that's his Twitter name. Was interviewing him and welcoming him to Seattle, and what made him make this move. And DeMarcus Lawrence said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I think I'm going to be pretty close. My family's in Dallas. My life is in Dallas. They drafted me there. I'm going to stay in Dallas. He's like, but I know for damn sure I wasn't going to win a Super Bowl there. And then I'm okay with like that. But then he paused and he looked at the camera and was like, yeah, like, you know what I'm talking about. And then the guy just like laughed. And he's like, all right, well, welcome to the Seahawks. So then, of course, Micah Parsons quote tweets this. And I don't know if you saw this, and people are saying DeMarcus threw the first shot. I think Micah actually threw the first shot, because I think it was like 38 seconds after DeMarcus Lawrence was named that he was going to Seattle, Micah tweeted, "It's my time," in all caps. Meaning like, I am now the alpha dog. I am now the leader of this defense. DeMarcus is gone. So I think that was technically the first shot. And there has been long-standing rumors that these two did not get along at all.
This is like how the Kendrick Drake thing started, where everyone was like, "Oh, we dissed them in a song," and then they go back and like, "Oh shit, there was like context clues. They've hated each other for a decade before, like we just got to the climax of it all."
And the funniest part about all this is yesterday or the other day, my wife and I are packing for Florida, and she's in our room and I'm in my closet, and she has Bravo on. I'm always making fun of her and you for these drama Bravo shows. There's just Bravo drama. And she has that on, and I'm in my closet and I'm listening to a Cowboys podcast and they're talking about this drama. And I just like pause and I go, holy shit, the Cowboys are my Bravo drama.
They are. Your summer house.
So Micah quote tweets it and says, "This is clown behavior. This is what envy and not wanting to be back or something." And then DeMarcus Lawrence, who has not been on Twitter in years, like never tweeted back and saying, "You're calling me a clown, blah blah blah. If you would, focus more on winning and not podcasting, maybe I wouldn't have left." Now, there's a lot to dissect there. First, I mean, or no, he didn't say focus on winning. If you would have done more winning, I mean, DeMarcus, you were on the team too for a long time, and you didn't show up during playoff games at all. And after a beatdown, you said you were tired in the playoffs. So
that was one of my favorites. Of all the Cowboys stories, that one was one of my favorites.
So I see both. Like, DeMarcus isn't wrong, right? He's just saying it how it is. And if you ask Cowboys fans, and I've been looking on Twitter on this, it's split 50-50. Like half are like, yeah, well, D-Law's not wrong. But then everybody else is like, you're not in the locker room anymore. You're not part of, I can talk about my family that way, but you can't talk about my family that way because you're not in my family. Like, that's kind of where we're at. What are your thoughts as an outsider? Just pure entertainment?
It could not have gone better. It just can't be going better for Philadelphia Eagles fans. Like, we won the Super Bowl. We won the Super Bowl because the offensive player of the year came from our rival, came over, had 2,000 yards. They filmed an entire HBO show about what a debacle that was. And then they had a 3-win season. Then we go to the Cowboys. They have a losing season. They're nothing but drama. The players are being like high profile names on the team are leaving and bashing the franchise on the way out after they sucked. And our main competition is a team that is owned by Josh Harris. So I painfully know how this ends up for them. And they're signing like Debo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil to like compete with us. So far. Oh, by the way, we're up 34-0 on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Might I add that to this? It could not have gone. Nothing could have gone better than this past season, and I will cherish this forever for all of the context. Now, that's from a fan perspective. DeMarcus Lawrence, I get his point, but he did go to the Seahawks, who are giving $100 million to Sam Darnold. So if the goal was a Super Bowl, I don't know if he got closer. I feel like he kind of made a lateral move.
Yes.
Right?
And I mean, they downgraded at receiver too. They got I would say DK Metcalf is still a better receiver right now than Cooper Kupp.
Yes, I would agree with that. They also cut ties with Tyler Lockett. So
Which Cowboys make the call.
So
Call Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. But why didn't they call Cooper Kupp?
Because they didn't want to pay 15 a year.
Maybe they did, and he just wanted to go back to Washington, which is understandable from his point of view. But yeah, so just like from that though, when does this end for the Cowboys? Because if I've learned anything about this country over the past years, it's that old white billionaires don't care if something works efficiently. They just want to give the perception that it works efficiently because of them.
Yes.
And right now, for a long time, it was like the Cowboys are America's team. We're on Sunday Night Football every week because we are the team. And right now, it's like you are the class clown that everybody's laughing at. I don't think they'll get as many primetime games. The fans are now selling the tickets. They don't want to renew the season tickets. So now the perception of them isn't even like the bravado of America's team. It's more like you are the internet Bravo summer house drama.
Yep. I've been saying it for years. They are the WWE. They are not the NFL.
Yeah, it doesn't give you a good product. It doesn't give you good ratings. Like they're not accomplishing anything that I think Jerry Jones thinks that they're going to accomplish. And again, it's not for him. It's not just wins or losses. It is eyeballs, but I don't think that they're going to even be eyeball. Like I don't know one Cowboys fan who's like, yeah, I'm super excited. Like we're on the right track.
I would not be surprised if somehow, some way, sooner rather than later, Jerry Jones somehow, some way starts a TV show around this team.
Everyone's got a documentary these days, so I would not be shocked either.
But like a show, like a Bravo show. Like
it would be Hard Knocks, but just
Cowboys house.
Just the Cowboys drama edition.
And then he makes like 7 of his players actually live in a house together.
I would when we get to the summer months, when the draft is over and free agency's done, that would be a good content idea.
And then Micah's just doing things to Montoya's girlfriend.
Montoya's
Montoya, por favor.
I know I gotta wrap up, but maybe we'll end on that instead of the Eagles. The end of that show ends with them coming together and deciding whether they should be a couple still or not. Like if they should leave the island and be a couple. I was like, I feel like we have already determined.
If I had to watch just one of like the 7 different things that Montoya had to watch, I would have been off the island.
Every week, it's them just like the most detrimental, unbearable, like cheating. And
she went under the water, Aiden, in the pool.
I didn't even know, like physics wise, I don't even know how it works.
And they're like, so Montoya, do you want to go back? But Montoya won in the end because she wanted to go with her lust, and he walked away from her.
He did. He won in the end. He was like, I'm just going to figure out myself. I'm leaving single.
Yep. And she said, I'm leaving with him. And the guy goes, no, you're not.
No, you're not. So, yeah, he kind of won in the end. I just couldn't believe that's how the show finishes, is that they all come together and decide. It's like every time a clip pops up on my Twitter, I'm like, thank God I'm not on this island. It'd be horrible to watch your significant other do these things.
Oh, God.
Then they're like, you guys still want to be together? They're like, what?
Come for the Birds versus Boys, stay for Montoya talk.
That's the perfect way to end it. Mekhi Becton, special shout out. Thank you so much. As a guy who cries every time the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I appreciated you crying in those big moments because that lets me know we ask for two things from athletes. I say it all the time: hard work and passion. It's not always just the winning. I think those two things go a lot further. You could not have faked it with him. He worked really hard to get to a new position, lose weight, and then it paid off, and you could see what that meant to him. So thank you to him.
Agreed. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Tons of off-season content, a lot of mock drafts coming, and draft talk from Aiden and myself. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, we are there. Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, like, and comment below. We'll be back with much more as the offseason rolls on towards the draft, OTAs, minicamp, and then before we know it, it'll be training camp.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds versus Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things.
I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast,
We'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach.
That is
the team you promised me you were going to be this year.
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.